Hello and welcome to Journeys and Journals. And as you can see, it's a God Bless America from here for the whole show. I've got a guest who can tell us about inside stories from Vietnam. And, well, let's meet Mike. How long have you been willing to talk about Vietnam?
Well, on and off, for quite a while.
But it's kind of hard, isn't it? Now, when I met your buddy, he said he'd never even talked to his family about Vietnam, till his wife says to him, "Why don't you write a book?" And with her encouragement, not enough tears. What's the story? Why would he choose a title like that? Dave Wright, who lives right here in Southern Oregon, why weren't there enough tears? Why?
I think basically for him, what he went through in that right there was there wasn't enough time for tears right then.
Did you find that experience?
I was in a whole different setup than Dave was. What I was doing over there, I had just for my own mental, emotional well-being, I had to block out everything.
And because you were a medic, you'd gone in as a conscientious objector, and you were assigned to a hospital? You were the new kid on the block, and what job did that give you?
Well, because I was the new kid on the block, I got to be the person that did all the body bagging when anybody died on our shift.
And that happened.
Quite a bit.
And that brings me to that next t-shirt, and why, oh why, there's a whole wall of how many names on the wall in Washington, D.C.?
58,000 something.
Of our boys, our sons, our grandsons, and our daughters
yeah.
who didn't come home except in a body bag. Or there was another way, and I understand your shirt tells that story. POWs, we know about prisoners of war. But what's MIA stand for?
Missing in action.
In this, I was so fortunate. After we had the Vietnam Wall here in Grants Pass, they took down all the memorabilia and left it in our community. And yesterday I was privileged to go to Francis's home and go through the memorabilia that was left. I brought things that are meaningful to all of us, but not personal to any person, wishing to respect the family, the memory of those lovely notes, little flowers. We just waved the red, white, and blue. Over there, I'm sorry to say, Mike, but when you came back, there wasn't a whole lot of waving the red, white, and blue for you guys.
No.
That's what makes me really sad, because you were doing your duty as you for God and country. And now, years later, all we can do is hang out the black flag. These were on flowers that were there. It was a long war, wasn't it? What part of the Vietnam were you in?
Oh, I can't remember whether it was down in Second or Third Corps, but it was on the coast, a place called Quinyon. There was an airfield there, so we could get people that had been stabilized and everything, we could get them shipped on to Japan where they could get better treatment and
Full hospital
right.
facility. I just talked about MIAs. These are bracelets that were left at the wall. We are hoping that these men and women, this is just a tiny one, so I can assume that this was mother and daughter, mother and son, who had matching bracelets. Hoping against hope that they were prisoners of war in some hospital someplace. Mike, tell me a little bit about what you experienced.
I came, my first day on the ward, I went over there. I had a theology as a background. I had dropped out of college at Walla Walla College, and life was all very dear and precious to me. And my first day when I walked in onto the ward here at the nurses' station was a group of doctors, nurses, and orderlies having a little get-together and stuff. And I asked what was going on, and what they were doing was they were betting on the life expectancy of a papa son that had been shot through the head, and they were just waiting for him to die.
When you say papa son, you mean?
He was just an older gentleman, an older Vietnamese man. And when I got there, the Vietnamese, like everybody else, were dear and precious, and it was just, I couldn't fathom how people could be standing around placing bets on when he would die. Because if he died on our shift, then one of us would have to body bag him.
You were the new kid, and it was going to be your job.
Well, I didn't know that yet.
Okay.
But when the Papa San did die, that's when my ward master came over and told me that since I was the youngest ranking person, that was going to be my job as long as I was on that ward. So
Tough. Here you're 19?
18.
18, facing death for the first time in your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd never seen a dead person before that time.
And you went into as a medic because you're a conscientious objector to war.
Mm-hmm.
And a Vietnamese life was precious to you
Mm-hmm.
as a soldier's life is precious.
It was as precious as any life.
An African kid
Mm-hmm.
that we saw slaughtered in the
Mm-hmm.
recent television show, it's just unbelievable how hatred those were cousin against cousin in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
You brought, they sent with me, there's so much black flags. I see black bumper stickers. What's the black all about?
I would imagine death.
Yeah, and just unresolved things. Now, how many other Vietnam vets have been through the same treatment program that you were going through at Roseburg?
At Roseburg. Mm-hmm.
And also you were in an extended program down at Camp White, right?
Mm-hmm.
How many men do you suppose, women too?
I have no idea. Right now, I am still going to the domiciliary for depression and PTSD.
PTSD. Could you tell me what that means?
Post-traumatic stress disorder.
Would you recommend that to anyone who suffers, who has not yet reached out for help, who can't even talk about the war?
Most definitely, because you know, you're not able to, you can't live a full life. You can't have a full decent relationship with your wife, or, you know, or even just friends, because they've got all this stuff that is blocked up inside of you. You know, you can't even enjoy life, because not only do the bad memories, you know, or bad emotions get locked up inside, the pleasant ones also as well.
And you have experienced kind of a neutral life that isn't fun and isn't, you blocked out the worst and the best and walked this walk.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing now, Mike?
Well, I have since got sober.
Give that guy a hand.
And
How many years?
14 years.
Congratulations. Clean and sober.
Mm-hmm.
And you're doing good things for your health.
Yeah, most of the time.
But you really do have some health problems that are lingering,
yeah.
like so many vets do.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a little memorabilia that was left there on the wall, and I thought, surely this says it all. No, it's the sun will shine through it. But no, praise God for the USA. Now this one is personal, but I chose it because it's so precious. Can't you imagine the child that made that and wanted to take their best? Someone left this at the wall. This was in Grants Pass. The wall was spectacular.
Yes, it was.
Were you involved in putting that up?
I didn't help put it up, but I helped with anything I could do that day while it was going up.
They brought this by truck from, it's a traveling wall. What was the impact of that?
You know, there was people that couldn't get close to the wall, people that would they would walk and try to get close to it, but couldn't. There was others that were walking along and crying. But you know, this war, you know, as all wars, it doesn't impact just the people that are there. It's the families, the wives, the kids, you know, as well.
I took 4 or 5 of the young people that I have done nursing home visitation with and took them there. And as we walked by, you know, there was a certain, it's a park, and it was a certain amount of lots of red, white, and blue and flags, and even bagpipes here, and music going on, and speeches. And after that, we walked the wall. And our attitude had changed. We came to the chapel. Did you get a chance to walk into the tent, set up with little 3 rows of chairs? And I wondered if a chapel was like that, available where you were.
Well, we actually had one that was not even a tent. It was better than that.
Okay.
But I never went into it.
Ah.
The first chapel I went into since I was back for Vietnam veterans was at Mount Angel, I believe it is. It's a memorial that they have in Arizona. And it's was very touching, very moving.
And is that part of your recovery?
It is.
A God spot that nothing else could fill?
Yeah, right.
These were some of the incredible presentations that were, the military came forward in so many ways, but these were the presentations brought from Washington, D.C. And, here is a couple of your friends. In fact, this is...
Well, this right here is Francis. His title has changed recently, and I don't remember what
I
it
think
is.
he's main man in charge of veterans.
Right. This is Dave, and Dave's the one that wrote the book, Not Enough Tears. And this gentleman here, I don't recognize myself, but I think he was the one that honored these guys with some special medals from the Native Americans. So,
Native Americans, was there a large number of them in the war?
you know, to be honest with you, there was people of every shape, description, and color. There was people from all over the world there.
Well, we know that in World War II, the Native Americans served a incredible language,
Right.
and that saved lots of lives. These were, this is a special thing Native Americans had left there. And let's see, down in here are a few other things. This one was a beauty. In memory of, and then it gives a name, and with love. Memory. This black again. This is the color of the Vietnam War. It seems to reappear and reappear in your hat. Now, this hat came from Francis. Does that say that he's got a lot of stripes, or?
Well, if that was his rank, yes.
Now, I really don't understand, but here is another one of those beautiful plaques that this is made of hardwood. It's a beautiful piece. Looks like someone's like flooring or something. Never forgotten, never forgotten. While I was there, this is on a slightly lighter note, they're putting out a mailing. And of course I'm saying Mike, and so they said, well, how about you delivering Mike Schenk's mail? So here you are.
The next meeting, huh?
And at the same time, they said, well, here's one for his dad. So if you'd be so kind as to deliver both of those for us. Mike, what's turned your life around completely now? There's the shirt with the wall. Did you wear that kind of hat? Did you do that kind of?
Oh, I only wore that kind of a hat when we had a red alert or something. Most of the time it was just a baseball cap.
Okay, sort of like this.
Yes,
Working in the hospital. Let's get down to Mike and what it's like to come home. Why 15, 14 years to come back to who you were when you left?
Well, I'll never be the person that I left as.
Happy-go-lucky kiddo?
Yeah. And, you know, as one thing that I found right off when I got over there was drugs. Alcohol came later, but to deal with the trauma and the fear that I had, I started smoking pot. And when I got back to the States, I continued doing so for the rest, well, for about 25 years. And I'm just, no, even with 14 years of recovery, I'm really just now. My Indian name is Child Learning to Walk. I gave that to myself in about 13 years ago when I went to a powwow. And that powwow is going to be happening this weekend again. And child learning to walk is as appropriate now as it was back then when I was first getting sober. Because I feel like I'm still just a newborn baby out here. So,
what would you say to someone who, well, first of all, let's say moms. What about your mom? What would you say to the moms that are hearing you for the first time? How did your mom behave? She knew it, right? She knew that a different boy came back
Yeah.
from Vietnam than she'd sent over there with clean.
Well, my mom and my dad have both been absolutely terrific in my recovery, in my life afterwards, when I was unable to work or support myself. They helped me out in ways that were not just financial and stuff, and not just enabling, you know, not just to keep me out there, but times where I really needed it. And certainly after I started getting recovery, my parents have been there.
100?
Absolutely, over 100%. Yeah.
Well, his parents tell me that he is making great strides, and they are as proud of him as I am. Now you know why I wanted him on the TV, because there is hope. There's hope after alcohol, there's hope after drugs, and there's hope after that terrible disaster that we as a nation experienced. I can still remember those planes coming back with people begging to get on, clinging to get on, because you were their last hope. That's what it looked like. It's left scars. Your scars are healing. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I think the worst thing that I'm learning to heal from now is that I learned to hate all Vietnamese. In fact, I called them gooks for years and years and years until I finally realized in doing a step in my recovery that they didn't want us there any more than we wanted to be there. I've put myself in their position here, and having some country coming in and telling us what to do, and then you have the good guys on one side, the bad guys on who do you take care of, and who do you feed, and who do you lie to and stuff. I would have done the same thing. The whole thing was completely. When I went there, I believed that my country was right in everything that they did. In fact, for a long time, I considered myself to be unpatriotic, and I hated that. I really hated that, because I love the United States. I love where I live. I wouldn't want to live anyplace else. And it dawned on me one day that, many years after I had been back, that I'm not unpatriotic at all. I love my country. It's just that I question greatly some of the people that run it and how they run it.
And that's the freedom we have. That's the freedom we have. But as far as the service you did, why don't you pull up that other shirt there that says it so incredibly well. You are not forgotten. The story you've just told me tells me a lot more than just body bags. And let's face it, every war we've had names for the enemy, because you have to think in terms of us and them. And there were people begging us to be there. We know that, you know that. And same thing in every war, you're greeted with hosannas and hoorays, and some people, it's hard. War is not easy. I'd like to see a day when there's, what's it say? War no more, make war no more. And that's what I'm looking forward to. would you trade that experience for the man you are today? Mike, would there have been any other path that would have grown you so strong and so tall?
No, because I'm a believer that for me to finally surrender to my Father in heaven as completely as I am doing, that it's taken every bit to knock me down. I didn't realize how much pride I had until I came.
After all, you are a firstborn male, right?
Yeah.
And with that, sometimes there's a false feeling that you can solve the world's problems. 12-step program you mentioned, I love that one. Turn my will and my
Turn my will and my care, turn my will and my life over to the care of God,
as I understand
Him.
God.
Right.
And that's what you've done, what I've done. And I guess that's the message I'd like to leave with these people. We can't do it alone. It's tough.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're facing cancer, as I now do, or you've got a health problem too. You're facing a related and unrelated, who knows, health problem. Fortunately, the domiciliary is there for you.
Yes. The domiciliary has been a great asset in my life.
And my chum has just gone through that program, and he's offered to be there for you too. And one anothering has meant so much. I'm involved in a cancer support group, and oh my, it makes such a difference.
Sure.
Mike, thanks for being here.
You're welcome.
But thanks for being my friend and letting me do that crew cut for you. I don't know that you had it that short in the military.
Oh, pretty close.
But he's done this in support of me in my fight with cancer. And I thank you so much, Mike. God's been good, and I'm not going to fight it, the experience. I am fighting the cancer. I'm Bernie Martin Beck saying thanks so much for tuning in.